$350 million. That is the number they don't want you to remember. It isn't the brochure price Lockheed Martin shows to Congress. It isn't the flyaway cost you see on Wikipedia. That is the true program acquisition unit cost of a single F-22 Raptor. For 20 years, you were sold a story. You were told this machine was the ultimate insurance policy for American air dominance. You were told it was the gold standard. And then, in a twist that made no sense to the public, you were told it was too expensive to build, so we stopped. We capped the fleet at 187 jets and threw away the keys to the factory. But here is what they didn't tell you. While the Pentagon was publicly begging Congress to let them retire the old Raptors to save money, they were secretly funneling billions into a program that has been flying right over your head for years. The F-22 didn't die, it mutated. Today, on the Hidden Muster, we are tearing down the classified walls of the F-22 program. We are going to follow the money, from the canceled production lines of Georgia to the black budget hangars of Nevada. We are going to audit the Ares contract, expose the printer Inc. business model of stealth maintenance, and prove that the death of the F-22 was actually a financial shell game to fund something darker. The stealth monster is already flying, and you paid for it. I'm James, lead defense economist. Welcome to the audit. To understand the crime, you have to go back to the scene, the 1990s, the Advanced Tactical Fighter program. The pitch to the American taxpayer was simple, elegant, and completely misleading. The Soviet Union was developing new fighters, the Su-27 and the MiG-29. The US Air Force said, "We need a silver bullet." They promised a jet that could cruise at supersonic speeds without afterburners, turn on a dime, and remain invisible to radar. But the most important number wasn't the speed, it was the cost. Lockheed Martin promised the Air Force a jet that would cost roughly $35 million per copy. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $80 million in today's money. That is a bargain. That is the price of a standard F-15 today. So how did we get from $35 million to $350 million? This is where military-industrial math kicks in. It's a concept called economy of scale, and it is the primary weapon defense contractors use to hostage the taxpayer. Originally, the Air Force planned to buy 750 F-22s. When you build 750 of anything, the massive upfront cost of research and development, the billions spent designing the wings, writing the code, and testing the stealth coding gets spread out. It's like buying wholesale. The more you buy, the cheaper each unit becomes.
But then, history happened. The Soviet Union collapsed. The threat vanished. The peace dividend politicians in Washington looked at that order of 750 jets and started slashing. First, they cut it to 648, then 438, then 339. Finally, in 2009, Defense Secretary Robert Gates capped the program at just 187 operational fighters. Here is the financial tragedy. The R&D money, roughly $30 billion, was already spent. It was gone. When you divide a $30 billion sunk cost by 750 jets, it's manageable. When you divide it by 187 jets, the math explodes. We ended up paying for a fleet of Ferraris and receiving a handful of prototypes. The flyaway cost, the cost to just build the metal and engines, was around $143 million. But the program acquisition cost, the real price tag that includes the R&D, the factories, and the tooling, hit $350 million per jet. We bought a hypercar for the price of an aircraft carrier wing. And the worst part, we didn't even get the car we were promised. This is where the hidden muster really begins. You might think, okay, we overpaid, but at least we have the best jet in the world, right? Wrong. We have the best airframe in the world, but the brain inside it? It's a geriatric patient. The F-22 was designed in the late 1980s. Its core computer architecture runs on processors that are slower than the phone in your pocket. By the time the final jet rolled off the line in 2011, it was already obsolete compared to the newer F-35. The F-22 doesn't have the fancy helmet-mounted display that lets F-35 pilots look through the floor of their plane. Until recently, it couldn't even talk to the F-35 without giving away its position. It was a stealth ninja that was deaf and mute. This created what we call the modernization death spiral. Because the fleet is so small, only 180 jets, no company wants to build parts for it. There is no profit in making spare chips for 180 computers. So the Air Force has to pay Lockheed Martin to enter the Ares contract, Advanced Raptor Enhancement and Sustainment. In 2021, the Air Force quietly awarded Lockheed Martin a sole source contract worth nearly $11 billion. Let that number sink in. $11 billion. That is more than the entire annual defense budget of nations like Sweden or Norway. And what is it for? Not for new jets, not for more engines. It is just to keep the existing 180 jets relevant until 2031. We are spending roughly $60 million per jet just on upgrades. That's enough to buy a brand new F-18 Super Hornet for every single Raptor in the fleet.
So what are we buying with that $11 billion? We are buying low drag tanks and IRST pods, infrared search and track. Why? Because the F-22 has a fatal flaw. It is blind in the infrared spectrum. If a Chinese J-20 shuts off its radar and flies silently, the F-22 struggles to see it. The F-35 has infrared sensors built into its skin. The F-22 does not. So now we are bolting external pods onto a stealth jet, ruining the very stealth profile we paid $350 million to achieve. This is the sunk cost trap in its purest form. The Pentagon cannot admit the F-22 is flawed, so they spend billions gold-plating it to hide the cracks. Now let's follow the money to the people who are actually cashing the checks. When Secretary Gates killed the F-22 production line in 2009, he didn't just stop buying planes. He handed Lockheed Martin a monopoly. In the defense industry, building things is a low-margin business. You might make 8% or 9% profit on building a jet. It's risky. Factories break, supply chains snap, labor strikes happen. But sustaining things? That is the golden goose. That is where the vampire squid sinks its teeth in. Because the F-22 is so unique, so complex, and so proprietary, the Air Force cannot fix it themselves. They cannot go to a third-party mechanic. They must go back to Lockheed. This is called vendor lock. They told us, we will keep the tooling. If we need to, we can restart the line. That was a lie. A 2017 Air Force report estimated it would cost $50 billion to restart production. Why? Because the supply chain is dead. The mom-and-pop shops in Ohio that made the titanium bulkheads? Bankrupt. The software engineers who wrote the code in the archaic Ada language? They are retired or dead. So Lockheed Martin doesn't need to build new F-22s to make money. They just need the old ones to break. Every time a stealth coating peels, Lockheed gets paid. Every time a canopy cracks, Lockheed gets paid. They have shifted their business model from manufacturing to subscription service. The F-22 is no longer a product. It is a software-as-a-service platform with wings. If you want to know which other weapon systems are actually just subscription traps designed to drain the treasury, hit that subscribe button. We read the contract PDFs so you don't have to. Let's talk about the printer ink model of aerial warfare. Buying the jet is the cheap part. Flying it is where you go bankrupt. As of January 2026, the estimated cost per flight hour for an F-22 Raptor is between $85,000 and $90,000. Think about that for a second. If a pilot goes up for a 2-hour training sortie just to practice turns and landing, that costs the American taxpayer nearly $200,000. That is the price of a house in the Midwest, burned in jet fuel in 120 minutes.
Why is it so expensive? It comes down to chemistry. The F-22 is wrapped in a fragile, toxic material called RAM, radar-absorbent material. It is the magic cloak that makes the jet invisible. But this magic cloak hates the real world. It hates rain, it hates sand, it hates humidity. If an F-22 flies through a rainstorm, the coating can bubble and peel. When it lands, a team of technicians in hazmat suits has to spend days scraping and repainting it. This leads us to the most damning statistic of all: availability rates. In late 2024 and throughout 2025, the mission-capable rate for the F-22 fleet hovered around 40 to 50%. That means at any given moment, if World War III started, half of our invincible fleet couldn't even take off. For every $10 you spent on this program, 5 of them were spent on a paperweight sitting in a hangar in Virginia waiting for glue to dry. We are paying premium, luxury prices for a fleet that is half-grounded. Imagine buying a fleet of Rolls-Royces, but they only work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That is the F-22 program. This is the part that should make you angry. It's called opportunity cost. In economics, the real cost of something isn't the money you spend, it's what you could have bought with that money instead. The F-22 program, with its upgrades and sustainment, consumes roughly $4 to $5 billion per year. What could we get for that money? For the price of one annual F-22 sustainment budget, we could have funded the production of 200 loyal wingman drones, unmanned, AI-driven stealth drones that don't care if it rains, don't need life support systems, and cost a fraction to fly. For the $11 billion Ares upgrade contract alone, we could have rebuilt the entire naval shipyard infrastructure that is currently crumbling. The strategic tragedy is that while we were gold-plating the Raptor, our adversaries were building volume. China didn't try to build the perfect jet. They built the J-20, which is good enough, but they are building them by the hundreds. They prioritized mass, we prioritized a boutique luxury item. In a war of attrition, quantity has a quality all its own, and right now, we have very little quantity. So is the F-22 a total failure? Is it just a money pit? Not exactly, because here is the twist. The F-22 you see today isn't the end goal, it is the incubator. While Congress was arguing over retiring 32 Block 20 Raptors in 2024 and 2025, the Air Force had already moved on. The stealth monster that is flying right now, the one you didn't know existed, is the NGAD technology demonstrator. The Air Force admitted a prototype flew years ago, but in 2026, we know the truth. The reason the Air Force is willing to spend $11 billion upgrading the F-22 is because the F-22 is being used as the test bed for NGAD, Next Generation Air Dominance. Those weird pods you see on spotter photos, that's the new NGAD sensor suite. The new mirror-like coating that appeared in 2023, that is the new laser-deflecting skin for the 6th generation fighter. We aren't fixing the old plane just to fix it. We're using the F-22 to de-risk the technology for the new plane. The Monster is a $500 million per unit aircraft that doesn't officially exist on the books yet, hidden inside the F-22 modernization budget. They're laundering the development costs of the 6th gen fighter through the maintenance budget of the 5th gen fighter. It's a brilliant accounting trick, and it means the F-22 will never die. It'll just be cannibalized until the new host is ready to take over. So what is the verdict? Is the F-22 stealth monster a capital masterpiece or industrial theft? It's industrial theft. We paid for a fleet of 750, we got 180. We paid for affordable maintenance. We got a $90,000 per hour hangar queen. The contractors got rich, the generals got their promotions, and the taxpayer got the bill. The F-22 is the greatest fighter jet ever built, and the worst business deal the Pentagon ever signed. And the scariest part? With NGAD, we're about to do it all over again. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you think $350 million is a fair price for total air superiority. Maybe you think the hidden muster of secret budgets is necessary to keep us safe in a dangerous world. I want to know your take. Should we restart the F-22 line and fix the availability? Or should we scrap the whole thing and go all in on cheap, expendable drones? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you want to know which defense contractor is about to loot the treasury next, subscribe to the Hidden Muster.